when Donald Trump became president, some people were concerned, weren't they, that it would bring the world to the very brink of Armageddon. And now from Armageddon's brink, we bring you the Trews.
Day 201 of the Trump administration, and it started out normally enough.
This guy's doing the news from 1950s, isn't he? I didn't think we did news like that anymore. Day 922.
By afternoon, though, he had used superheated, cataclysmic language as a counter threat to North Korea.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States.
I think someone's told him to stop doing that thing with his hands because he's really very self-consciously going like that with his mouth. North Korea, but not threaten the United States unless he fire and fury. He's got a little bit of a problem with the old grabby. Keep them hands where I can see him, Donald.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
I think that this kind of macho posturing is an interesting manifestation of the general rage that brought Donald Trump to power. I see Donald Trump as a carbuncle of wrath, that it was an unexpressed, unconscious sort of pustule of anger that has now risen to the surface. Many people feel angry, some for legitimate reasons, some for reasons that are a little bit bogus, that they've been trained to feel. If people were constantly fed subtle racist messages, subtle homophobic messages, subtle homogenous messages about the rightness of whiteness. Even now I look out the window of Leicester Square and I can see a child kicking at a pigeon. In human nature is the potential for cruelty, is the potential for brutality. If it's not correctly marshalled, it will express itself. What we're seeing now, Donald Trump, is a sort of the manifestation of wrath. Fire and fury is right on both sides of it. Unconscious rage is coming to the surface. This is a time of transition and transformation. I think it's generally a positive thing if it doesn't lead to a nuclear war, in which case any unconscious developments may become somewhat secondary.
He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement.
One of the things I like about Donald Trump is his way to make global news and geopolitics sort of conversational. It does seem like some peculiar murder in Successville, Stella Street condensation of global affairs. He has been threatening. It sounds like he's talking about a dispute just with some bloke. But ultimately, dynamically, that is what's happening.
And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power.
So funny, isn't it? I wonder who he does consult with and get advice from, because these are such a sort of in a way, trite words in that they are kind of cliched. Fire, fury, they sound like computer game language or a bizarre like film franchise. Fire and Fury 7. Like this is actual political discourse that we're witnessing. But again, the thing I can't help but think is, whilst what Donald Trump is doing, many examples, too many to list even actually, literally now, like are sort of obviously and observably bad, I still think that he is the representative of a system rather than a rogue individual, because it's not like 4 years ago we were all in utopia having a whale of a time, people wandering down the streets hand in hand while butterflies landed on our shoulders and then this geezer turned up. No, it was heading this way. It was heading this way, and now here we are. And it's easy to be nostalgic about Barack Obama because he is comparatively, he seems like within the domain of the human, charming, elegant, and all of those things. But my general feeling is that these external avatars of power are less important than the power itself. And while there have been some changes already, like some of the stuff Trump tries to do, the healthcare things get blocked, let's see what actually happens, how much of this is bluster. But then I do remember saying Donald Trump can't be president of the United States, and it turns out that he is.
The likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
That's literally a threat of Armageddon there. There it is right there. I don't think we've seen anyone. I mean, if you listen to like Churchill speeches or even Hitler speeches, or they don't really actually say stuff like that. This is not really our tradition. The sort of post Second World War or even post-Westphalian Treaty, right, guys? Like world doesn't use that kind of language, doesn't use religious language. He's not like a papal authority leading like a sort of a religious army of crusaders. This is the leader of a democratic nation. But the very fact that we've arrived at this point, and look at just behind him, the stars and the stripe and the eagle, what do these symbols and emblems mean? What do they mean? Is an indication of where we really are.
Hours after that, the North Koreans threatened planned a missile attack on Guam.
I'll do a missile attack on Guam then. Yeah, there you go. How about that?
For those not familiar with Guam, it's a U.S. territory, population 168,000 U.S. citizens.
There's sort of layer after layer of absurdity here because Guam is officially American soil, but it's not in the land mass that you would conventionally think of as America, like Hawaii, where Barack Obama was born, Donald. Like, it's a separate, tangential mass. It's over there sort of near North Korea. Now, that, in a sense, it's odd, isn't it, that there's a bit of land over there in the Pacific Ocean that's regarded as American soil. That's America, that is it? Oh, yeah. What is America? America's an idea that we're going to impose on you, and you better start agreeing with it, because otherwise it's good night.
This genuine overseas threat comes at a low point in terms of public trust in this president. Just 35% of Americans say they're confident in Trump's ability to handle the situation with North Korea's nuclear program.
I don't think we can really rely on public polls because he's elected president now. How are you feeling? Not confident. I mean, at this point, these kind of conversational tools seem somewhat redundant. And, don't you feel now that this is time for a genuine transition? My fear is that people will fall back too easily into, can't we have a pre-Trump world? Can't we go back to a pre-Brexit land? No, because those worlds lead to this one. It points to something that's been, I've been saying for a long while, better learned people, better educated and with better arguments than me have been saying for a long, long time. Massive, systemic change required that has to do with corporate power, media power, government power, and in a sense the breakdown of institutions as bold and as far-reaching as nation. I think that once America means Donald Trump, you have to question whether or not America is a good idea.
North Korea was a problem when Trump walked into the White House when he was still a candidate last year. He did not seem to want to get involved. Now, here is what he has said about North Korea since becoming president.
We'll handle North Korea. We're going to be able to handle them. It will be handled. We handle everything.
We certainly do, don't we, Donald? Some things that we shouldn't be handling by all accounts. And I don't mean, I suppose, that like America is an exceptional example of the problems of nationalism and global marauding. Of course, Great Britain, one of the early imperators of this idea of, let's go around the world nicking people's stuff, enslaving people, selling people, killing people, doing what we want. I'm looking now at 2 Union Jacks flailing in the wind in 2017. So many of our ideas that we take for granted, that we don't look beyond, need to be radically challenged. The world needs to change significantly. Donald Trump is merely a symptom. But I hope that the office of presidency is not vested with the kind of power that we superficially assume, and that personal characteristics, such as the fragility that this on TV talking head expert described, isn't really bestowed upon political leaders, that true power operates differently, and what we're dealing with is superficial, while be important in some areas of Trump's bizarre presidency, shows of power rather than actual power itself. But if there is a nuclear war, that'll prove me wrong, and that'll be the worst aspects of Armageddon. I was wrong about that. True News, subscribe here.